Good afternoon. Welcome to the market forecast. Still Wednesday, February the 17th. John Hoagland here. As always, thanks for trusting me with your time. I know Dan is missing you all. I send all your regards to him. He should be back with us very soon. But as far as the markets are concerned, hopefully you had a profitable trading day today. There's always challenges in every day, and we are here to face those and to look for our opportunities. Certainly some opportunities for us today. Just kind of glazing over what the markets did today in crude oil. We recovered some early losses to, I think, what it's going to be is its highest close in over a year. As far as the mini S&Ps, that we're having a little bit of trouble holding the auction to the downside. Matter of fact, we're seeing uncompleted upside auctions in the S&Ps, but the Nasdaq's a little bit different. NASDAQ was unable to close the gap that it created on the open today. I find that very interesting. There was a lot of effort for it to do so, but again, it was unable to do that. As far as gold is concerned, we had a retest of that previous weekly kickoff level of 1770. The euro looked like a little bit of long liquidation today below that important inflection level. And the 10-year mentioned this morning, we maybe want to watch the opposite moves. It's been heading to the downside. I think we saw a couple of pretty good rips to the upside. Nothing tremendous, but you really want to watch when we get consecutive down days like that. The days that head the other direction can be vicious. I think it was a pretty tough day in the 10-year for us today. As always, we're going to check the charts here shortly. I'm going to kind of look here at the news, and whether you love him or not, Rush Limbaugh has passed away today. Is probably some of the bigger news. We pray for him, and of course all the folks that love him. We see a little bit of Bitcoin news here this morning. BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, has decided to dabble in Bitcoin. There's a economist that says that he sees Bitcoin trading up to 100,000 this year. $100,000 Bitcoin, amazing. Seeing in some of the kind of wires in the news here, it looks like the president is backing off of his letting go of $50,000 in student loans, but some of his fellow members are going to continue to try and push him to do that. Schumer and Warren to name them, and other than that, not a lot of important information. We had some eco numbers earlier today; those have been digested by the markets. We did have the FOMC minutes come out, and the Fed officials are basically saying, as well as a couple of talking Feds today, seeing the economy far from where it needs to be, meaning easy policy won't change soon. That's all from the FOMC minutes. So we've got some more economic numbers due out tomorrow. I'll be reminding you of these on the forecast tomorrow. But we do have housing starts and permits, jobless claims as usual on Thursdays. Philly Fed import-export prices. We have the EIA Nat Gas at 9:30 Central Time tomorrow. And then at 10 o'clock Central, we've got today's EIA Petroleum Status Report due out tomorrow. Again, that's at 10 o'clock a.m. Central. Let's take a look at the charts. I always like to say hello to everybody. It's good to see everybody here. Felix, Bill, MSS Capital, Murph. Yeah, and he says the NASDAQ told us all what it was going to do in the pre-market, and it did it at least earlier in the day. Took the afternoon off, spent it with the wife, thanks to the NASDAQ. Nice job, Murph. Hope you had a nice time. James, John Doherty, the dancing bear with us, Mr. Shine's Mystery Channel. Ruam, nice to see you. Shane, good morning. Bitcoin, yes, ETF coming up, right? Sorted Hub, are we supposed to remain flat during Fed minutes, FOMC minutes? No, I don't think so. I don't think that's necessarily on that list anymore. I can certainly check for you. I can do that right now. We recently thinned out that number of products that we don't want you to be in when we are actively trading. And I'm going to just make sure and double check just because I want the right information. All right, let's see. Okay. I'm not able to get to the link here. Pretty sure that's the case. Huh. I'm I'm hoping that you're going to be okay. Mike Magallanes, the chef, is with us this afternoon. So good to see everybody. Let's take a look into the charts. Maybe I can get some information for you in the meantime on that. As always, we're going to start looking at the daily and crude. I've got 10-year up there. But market was off a little bit this morning. We were kind of looking at the weekly kickoff level of 49.80 as a possibly a potential opportunity for us today. It turned out to actually be a pretty decent one for us. We're looking for and seeing acceptance above that weekly kickoff high in two closes above that level. Let's take a look at the 30, see how today went. So, well, here this platform is arguing with me about keeping levels on it. So, yeah, the opening range, at least that initial move to the downside, took us down to and through that previous weekly kickoff, or I guess our current weekly kickoff level, unable to accept below it. We got just a nice bounce off of it and some continuation to the upside again. The highest close we've seen in over a year. So fundamentally, the market is looking for the virus, the vaccines to work, a cessation of the virus, return to a good economic system, as well as some supply issues coming out of Texas, as well as the Saudis reducing their production by a million barrels a day, and perhaps some cooperation and accountability from OPEC in that regard. So we are, looking like we have a pretty good bounce off that weekly kickoff high here, looking at 64.80 as a potential next level for the longer time frame to look to adjust inventories. S&Ps, we've got our daily here. So a pretty deep look below that previous weekly kickoff level of 39.20, and then a pretty good move back to the upside. We're kind of noticing on some of the profiles that we've really, especially like yesterday's and the overnight profile, was really giving evidence of unfinished upside auctions. In other words, we weren't seeing a lot of excess on those highs. So we had a pretty good look down below here, but where we were unable to kind of continue in that direction. I'm sure a lot of folks had fears. A lot of folks had their eyes on getting a deep move to the downside. It's just what short time frame traders tend to look for and tend to look to do. But once we put in this low here, and a pretty decent opportunity later on in the session here in the 1030 bar to get a cheap long here to see if we were going to be able to hold this previous low from earlier in the session, which we did, and we've resolved all the way back towards settlement. Guess what? Settlement again. So we're going to close back above this 39.20 level again. We've closed above it here, closed above it here, closed back above it here. So we're showing some continued acceptance of that level, even though we had a pretty deep dive and look down below it here today. The NASDAQ is presenting as weaker. Normally one of the strongest of the four amigos, unable to close the gap today. We were opened lower. We looked lower. We were unable to maintain those levels down there. But again, this market opened, with a considerable gap, and without being able to close that gap relatively early. I think we're talking about what Murph was talking about, that the market was heading lower at least early, and he was right about that. But the market kind of did a decent recovery, a little bit of excess off the low here. But again, the inability to close this gap might be a little bit of concern for longs. You have to see how this market looks tomorrow. Not even an attempt or the ability to get back towards settlement. And there was some pretty good, I think, energy spent here in this market to get this market back to the upside to try and close this gap, which, and again, it was unable to do so. Gold, wow, gold's freaky. So opening below our current weekly kickoff low of 1790, we go to take a look at the previous weekly kickoff low, which was 1770. We did a pretty good look down below it, didn't like what we saw, did some decent recovery after that. The opening range was initially the high of the regular trading hour session. The market came back and took that out just by a few ticks, and then finally really kind of gave us that lick to the downside. The high of the opening range here was right around 1736, 37, something like that. So we just barely took out the high of it, and then boy, the market just turned and headed for another important inflection level. Didn't close all that well either. I'm interested to see how the overnight treats that market. As far as the euro, we have the previous 2090 level taken out, and this week's weekly kickoff low of 2057. Looks like we've closed below it. Some pretty decent opportunity to the downside here. Adding 3,000 on the move yesterday to the downside may have been a little bit of a signal of that, as well as the increase in volume of some energy building in this area of balance that we were in for 3 or 4 days. Taking a look here, and opening range of the high of the regular trading hour session, basically kind of putting together a relatively B-shaped profile, which indicates long liquidation. I think we're probably going to lose a little bit of open interest on this move to the downside here today, and really just kind of longs perhaps just trying to leak out of some of those positions without pushing price too much to the downside. It's generally what we kind of look at as a B-shaped profile, and I think it's going to be interesting again tomorrow, being Thursday, and with a lot of more information coming out. What's it going to mean for the 10-year? Pretty decent move down here in the 10-year below our 36 even weekly kickoff low. But again, this morning, warning about being aware of and paying attention, looking for any kind of rips in the opposite direction. And when we look at the 30 here, it was a pretty choppy day today. Coming into this morning, really looking at how choppy the overnight was, and really kind of thinking about a similar situation. The market opened with a gap, but closed the gap immediately. I mean, without, almost immediately. What does it mean when you say if the market doesn't close the gap in a reasonable amount of time, you want to look for opportunities in the opposite, or I guess in the direction of the gap, which would have us looking for shorts. But within about the first 40 minutes here, the gap was closed, and really we just found an opportunity to kind of chop things up here a little bit. We have a P-shaped profile, which is indicative of short covering, which, when you think about it, if we're short and we're getting out of those shorts, we have to buy to get out of those shorts. We're taking buying power away from the marketplace. We're going to be maybe looking for some opportunities tomorrow if we get the chance up around this weekly kickoff level to perhaps see some decent resistance there. We've taken some of the buying power out of this market in this P-shaped profile and in the short covering that I believe happened today. How are we going to know that? We're going to look at open interest tomorrow morning before we even start thinking about getting into some trades. If that's the case, I'll look for maybe some continuation of the downside as we've kind of removed some of the initiative buying out of this market if we did lose some open interest in this. It is in rollover. We have to remember that. It's going to be a little bit blurry as far as what the open interest is going to be able to tell us. You got a lot of folks moving positions from March to the June contract as we speak. So it's a little bit iffy as to how we're going to be able to continue this market. A little bit iffy to see how we're going to be able to continue this market back to the upside after removing some of the buying power in it today. That was hard to say. All right. Now I'm back. Main point, I have not necessarily been recording the group coaching sessions, and I'm sorry about that. I saw your question, and it was kind of suggested that perhaps we could email the link to that to all of the attendees, and it's something that we're thinking about doing and thinking about adding to it. But as for right now, I don't have the recording of it for you, Main Point. I'm sorry about that. But come back next week and ask another question. We'll be looking for for you there. I got Luke here. I don't know if that's my son Luke. Usually it says Luke Hoogland when he starts to chime in, but sick lid, he says. This is my Top Step lid. And Luke, if that's you, I love you. And thanks for popping in. We've already kind of looked at the news, so we're going to see what we've got as far as this day in history. I always like looking at these. So a couple of interesting things I saw here. In 1996, chess champion Garry Kasparov defeats IBM's Deep Blue in a game of chess. In 1801, Thomas Jefferson is elected the third U.S. president. In 1972, the VW Beetle overtakes the Model T as the world's best-selling car. That's about it as far as this day in history. And as far as this day in music, we've got Elvis Presley won his first gold record for his second studio album on this date. Nancy Sinatra was number one in the UK singles chart with These Boots Are Made for Walking on this date in 1966. 1967, the Beatles recording a new John Lennon song, Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite at Abbey Road Studios. I don't really know what that means, but James Taylor in 1971 made his TV debut on the Johnny Cash Show. Other guests included Neil Young. 1975, AC/DC released their debut album, High Voltage. Blondie, 1979, Parallel Lines hits number one in the UK. As far as birthdays, nobody really sticks out to me that much except for Paris Hilton, born on this day in 1981, and Ed Sheeran 10 years later at 1991. He was born in 1991. That's just amazing to me. Well, at least I was still in high school when Paris Hilton was born. All right. All right. Hey, Luke, it's good to see you anyway. Let me know if I can help you in any way. And as always, we are here to help. That's our goal. We want to see as much success as we can for all of you. I'm going to call this a recap. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning again for the market forecast. And we will see you. She didn't need a mention. Yeah, well, she's not really much of a musician. I just found it funny that she was born when I was in high school. Sean, do you offer coaching on scalping futures? Not really. I'm not a scalper. the scalping niche in futures, unfortunately, I think has been largely taken over by the computers, the HFTs and the algos. You got some pretty stiff competition, and if you're going to play in their time frame, you're going to be wrestling with them in their time frame. If you get a little bit of a longer time frame view and look for some bigger opportunities, I think they won't bother you as much. Okay, looking forward to talking to you about that if we ever get the chance to, and be careful. Scalping is very high energy. You're going to use a lot of mental capital. Those computers are pretty good at their job. So great to see everybody. If you were new to the recap today, appreciate you stopping by. Look for me in the forecast tomorrow morning, and again maybe tomorrow afternoon. I don't know. I hope Dan's going to be back for us tomorrow afternoon. I don't know, but we'll see how he is doing. And as for you, be good to yourselves. We work hard at this. We deserve to have some good times, and make sure you take care of yourself, take care of others, wash your hands, get some good rest tonight. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning on the market forecast and in the markets tomorrow. Have a good night.